All right, everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome. Grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready for a session that's going to make your broker process way less painful than it might have been in the past. Today, we're going to be going through the 5 biggest mistakes that often we see employers make. So that's everything we've seen over the years that just keep coming back over and over again. And more importantly than the mistakes, it's how to avoid them going forward. So we want to give you a cleaner, smarter, and more defensible process. I want to be clear about this. This is a totally new kind of way of doing webinars for us because this is going to be incredibly conversational. So we are going to be going back and forth with various speakers and the guests that we have today. But we also would love for you to throw any questions you have into the chat. So there's chat and there's also a Q&A feature. So we'll be checking both of those. Use Q&A though, that's the cool one, I think. So let's get into meeting the team. Today we have me, Austin Townend. So I manage the marketing and community initiatives at Ethos. Next we have Chelsea Rikis, who is our president and the absolute GOAT of health benefits. I want to say hi, Chelsea.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here.
And it's my absolute honor to introduce Jay Gepfert from Culpeper RFP. And he's going to be bringing some serious insights to the discussion.
Austin, thank you for the invite. I look forward to it. This should be fun and informative all at the same time.
Heck yeah, dude. I'm really excited actually because Jay is, he's maybe the smartest guy I know. So I'm going to have a pretty fun.
Don't tell Donovan that, okay?
Yeah.
Austin, you forgot to mention Megan.
Oh yes, I forgot the most important person ever.
Right.
Let's go back here. Megan, who I failed to add as a visual on here, but Megan Anderson, who's not only our Q&A expert, but the coolest person at Ethos Benefits, and there's no second rudder anywhere close. Megan Anderson.
Thank you. Yes, it's very true. Definitely the coolest.
Okay.
We appreciate her beyond belief. She joins us for these webinars and is able to navigate all of the questions and help us actually keep this structured and together. So appreciate you, Megan. Okay, so here's the plan today, guys. I try to be as clear with what our agenda is, what you can expect for the next hour of your lives. We're going to talk, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction for Jay today. And then Jay's going to take it away with some information about Culpeper and what they do. Next, we'll have origin stories. I just thought it was a really exciting thing how similar our mission and origin stories are between our two companies. So just highlighting that a little bit. And then Chelsea Rikis has an introduction for her. And surprise to them, there are some rapid fire questions. So I've got some questions for Jay and Chelsea that they are woefully unprepared for. And afterwards, we'll get into the bulk of the content, which is that RFP mistakes. So we'll go over the 5 mistakes and the solutions to them. And then another big surprise, we have Donovan Rikis on the call as well, who will jump in later to talk about a really exciting initiative he's got going on. And then we'll do some discussion and Q&A, and then a little bit about an awards we have coming up. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, meet Jay. So I'm so honored to introduce Jay. I've had a lot of email correspondence back and forth, and the guy is so on top of it, and he's incredibly smart. He spent 20 years providing retirement consulting and investment advisory. I've been joking that if RFPs had a Google Translate system, it would just be Jay just sitting in a chair with a headset. So he's the only person he's the only person I've met who can take a 40-page vendor response and turn it into a crystal clear sentence. So Jay, so happy to have you, and please take it away, my friend.
Yeah, great. Hey, this is fantastic. And I saw from some of the names that are potentially listening in on this webinar of mixture of the audience. But I applaud you all for taking an hour of your time, because whether you know it or not, you are at the very beginning of a very transformative period of time for your industry, and more specifically in terms of brokers, how they're compensated, services. And so I applaud you for taking the time, because this hopefully will be very beneficial for you. So great. A little bit about my company. All we do is RFPs. We started off doing RFP evaluations for virtually every service provider you can think of in the retirement plan space. Some of the audience may have dual responsibilities for that area as well. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a happy client call and say, "Can you help us with the broker side?" And the answer was yes. And now it is the fastest growing area for our business of doing these independent RFP evaluations. Let me tell you what we are not. We are not a broker. We don't do anything in the broker space. All we do is come in on a project basis to assist plan sponsors to evaluate service providers in their health and welfare plans. So let's get into kind of the connection. Thank you for doing that, Austin, in terms of changing the slide, but the similarities between retirement and benefit plans. So let me give you a little story. This is my week for talking about health and welfare plans to the public. I just came back from Houston, talked to 22 very well-known ERISA counsel, and they wanted to know exactly what we're going through today. It's not quite as fun and as set up as Austin has done, but the information will be very, very similar. So they're interested in this area as well. So to summarize what an hour with them was, I'm going to go through in two slides with you all, which is the retirement area and the benefit plans are experiencing the exact same disruption. So if you have been in the retirement space for the last 10 to 20 years and have seen what's happened there, it's happening at the very beginning stages right now for benefit plans. And that is the merger of legislation out of Washington, D.C. from the Department of Labor and litigation that's taken place. And they have crashed together in the benefit space right in front of our eyes, and there is a paradigm shift going on right now. It's not going to happen in the future. It's happening right now, and that's why I hope you have joined this podcast. So some examples of that in the retirement plans 15, 20 years ago, that used to be all known as brokers are now all called as advisors. They all used to be asset-based fees, and most of the relationships are now fixed fees. And that's going to be taking place exactly in the broker space right now, where commissions sometime in the future will not be talked about. There will not be commission compensation. It will all be a fixed compensation that takes place. And the reason for that is there's a need for transparency. There's a need for you all to understand through the Department of Labor reasonableness of fees from your broker. You probably don't even know right now what the total fees are, let alone whether they're reasonable in the marketplace. And you are being held to a fiduciary standard, which is you're accountable to be able to understand, articulate that, and evaluate that in the marketplace. So what's happened in the 401k space is going on right now. There's fee litigation, there's consolidation of brokers. Some a very small boutique community are now taking on a co-fiduciary status. This is exactly what took place 15, 20 years ago in the retirement space, and it's now starting on the health plans. And my suggestion is if you are in the retirement space, follow what you've done for the last 10 or 15 years in that area, and you can do a rinse and repeat on the benefit side. If you're not doing it on the retirement side, this may be a good learning for you how to improve both sides of the house. So, Austin, next slide. There we go. So why does this matter? What's the big deal that's behind this? So one of the things you need to understand is that brokers that I call are the tip of the spear, which is if you want to fix your medical and health and welfare benefits, the only way I know how to be able to start that process is at the tip of the spear by making sure that your broker is 100% aligned with what your best interests are, that they don't only sit on your side of the table and they don't sit on any other side of the table throughout that relationship. And you need to make sure that they're aligned both financially as well as from a fiduciary perspective. And this is an area that is going to be the transformative area for this industry. And most brokers are going to be kicking and screaming into this world. My company deals with this literally every single day. And you need to understand that the due diligence process in selecting a benefits broker is exactly the same standard that takes place on the retirement side. This is a fiduciary decision. And it's not that you have to get it right. but you have to go through a process that's highly documented to make sure that if a third party comes in, you can justify why you did what you did. You can't just simply say, hey, we've had them for 15 years and we really like them. That's not a reasonable process. And my company does exactly that. But we also realize there's plenty of organizations, for whatever reason, are kind of DIYers. You're going to do it in-house. And so we understand that as well. But our business is specifically set up and brought in for plans of all size. Our smallest client has 100 employees. Our largest client has tens of thousands of employees. And the process is almost virtually exactly the same. And the fiduciary responsibility is exactly the same. So I think that's it, Austin.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is great because you guys get to grasp an understanding of what Culpeper does, and then how we felt like it was such an exciting collaboration because our mission and origin stories have just been so similar. So first off, Ethos and Culpeper actually came from the same school of thought, both with some origins in the 401k side of the world where fiduciary rules are strict and transparency is actually real and excuses just don't fly. And so trying to apply that to other processes and especially in healthcare and health benefits. So we both had that same aha moment that if you take the fiduciary discipline that really protects retirement dollars and ask the question, like, why on earth would it not protect health plan dollars too? And I've asked that question since I've been working with Ethos, and I can't find an answer to that other than that it absolutely should. So even though both companies work in different lanes, as kind of Jay addressed, we share the same origin story. So we're all about seeing the biggest spend in the organization that has the least structure and building our processes to fix that gap. So I just said processes, and I don't know if I've ever said that out loud before. Is it processes or processes?
That's how you say it in Canada. I'm Canadian, and that's how Canadians say it. So
Okay, yeah.
that's it.
Can't judge anything by the way Canadians say stuff, though. They say
I was going to say, Chelsea, I don't hear a lot of boots and different things from you. So, yeah, I say process, which I find is not very American. So, trying to meet you halfway here. All right, so let's jump into the next fun part. So, talking about Chelsea, Chelsea's superpower is calling out the RFP nonsense. I think if something is ever shady in your RFP, she is the person to find it. Welcome, Chelsea. If there's anything else you want to say about RFPs, now's a great time.
So I just wanted to add one thing that Jay said, because Jay did such a beautiful job of introducing the importance of this topic and the history and kind of what you can expect in the future. One of the reasons that myself and Ethos are so passionate about this is it's like Austin shared, it's our founding story. So Donovan, the CEO of our company, actually predicted these health plan lawsuits over a decade ago. He was also on the 401k side, and then he started the first fee-based advising firm in Florida before it was a buzzword, and one of the first of that we know in the nation, actually. And something that we've been very intentional about since I became a partner about 8 years ago was building a business model that's essentially the exact opposite of the traditional brokerage world. And as you'll learn throughout this process, that as we go through the questions here today, the problem is really the business model of brokerages because there's such a heavy reliance on bonuses, commissions, trips, all sorts of these misaligned incentives that Jay alluded to. So what we did was we built a business model that's completely void of those. And it's been very intentional. And the same way that Jay takes this fiduciary due diligence approach in the broker RFP process, we do that for our clients on the vendor selection process. Every TPA, every PBM, every stop loss vendor, every wellness, whatever the plan is, we're going through this exact same due diligence process in what we call our Ethos fiduciary framework. We do that with our clients on all the other vendors. So the only other thing I'll say is that as you're listening to this today, absolutely think about it in terms of your broker partners, but all of this will likely apply to any vendor that you're going to hire within your health and welfare program. Jay, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is the world that you're in right now, and it's only going to get more complicated as time goes by. Yep.
All right, Austin. I hear you have some questions for us. I'm a little nervous, but hit us with it.
Hey, it's not fun if it's not real. So we're We're gonna do some.
Austin always has a surprise. Every webinar, there's something up his sleeve that nobody knows about. It's really fun.
I will say, typically, it doesn't require work from you guys, so I've offloaded all of the effort onto you too. So this is a very selfish section, but fun for me. I hope it's everything you know expect here. So the first question I have for you guys is any horror stories. So we're probably going to talk about some of these things, but I think like what are some RFP horror stories? And I think without mentioning maybe the name or the client or the business that you worked with, but what is the worst RFPs you've ever seen? And Jay, let's go to you first.
Um, I would say it's a horror story because when organizations come to us, they're trying to stay away from a horror story. But I will tell you where we find the largest issues that take place in terms of an evaluation, and that is misaligned interests between human resources and finance. Because typically HR leads these evaluations. We really like to have finance to be a part of it. And when they're not on the same page of what they're looking for as an outcome, usually that's when, at some point in the evaluation process, it comes off the rails until we're able to get aligned interest within the organization itself. So I would say I don't know if that's a true horror story, but for us, that's our biggest issue if it does take place.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have anything, Chelsea?
Yeah, really quick. So I did an RFP. This was probably about a year or two ago now. And we were one of the finalists. And then the procurement team came in to make the final decision. And even though we had scored higher and we saw the scorecard in every single category, except for collective years of experience of the account management team, they chose a firm, one of a large publicly traded brokerage that had 250 years of collective benefits experience. That's what they were like touting in the RFP. My team only had 140 collective years of experience. So that was the decision that was made. And what I think is really interesting is if you look at this healthcare crisis on the employer side that we're in right now, it's really like a 20, maybe 30-year-old problem. Having that much experience is probably actually more detrimental because it's going to continue to, give you the same results, the definition of insanity, as opposed to, only 140 years. So I thought that was kind of funny.
But here's my follow-up to that, Chelsea, is how many employees was that 250 spread across as opposed to the 140?
At that point, we just move on, but I'm with you.
That's a key factor right there.
Right?
Oh, gosh,
these are good, Austin.
All right. Rapid fire two. All right, question number two. Let's go to Chelsea on this one. We'll switch it up. Who goes first? So, Chelsea, if you could remove one thing from every RFP template in America, what would it be? And I think something that's really just like, what purpose does this serve? Why is this in every single one?
So I see a question a lot that says, do you have premier status with Blue Cross, or do you have premier status or gold, whatever the pinnacle is? All that means is that brokerage writes the most business with that carrier. Therefore, there's the most misaligned incentives. So I think that question, while you think you're getting something better in that negotiation, usually that's not the case at all.
Austin, it's so funny. It's interesting how Chelsea goes one direction, and because of the different businesses that we're in, my mind goes a totally different direction. And that is, you don't get what you ask for, you get what you negotiate. And so one of the big pieces, and I guess that's a part of the RFP process and all, is that to realize as a plan sponsor, everything in the broker agreement is negotiable. Literally everything. In terms of services, compensation, everything, the length of the contract, everything you want to go along with that. And so I would say that probably the one thing I would like to have removed from the RFP, and it's not necessarily a template, but the thought process by our clients is to realize that they can negotiate everything.
You have the power.
100%.
Right?
And that's regardless as to whether you're the legacy broker or your new one coming in, it is a total toss-up once you go out to the market.
There should just be an asterisk at the top of every document that says, like, you can change this if you want.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
I do think that is the biggest theme, like in addition to the transparency movement that Jay was talking about and the fact that we're at this like really pinnacle moment of time. I think the underlying theme is that employers are the ones that can change it, and they hold all the power to make these decisions just by asking better questions. That starts with a process like this, right? So hopefully maybe at the end we can circle back to that. But I think that's really the big takeaway in everything is like employers have the power, whether they realize it or not.
Agree 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, we'll make sure we come back to that. All right, question 3, last one I've got for you guys. So the exact opposite, like what is some of the coolest, like what innovative, the smartest things you've ever seen, or that you'd want on there, and something, a real hill you die on with this?
I'll take this one. I think one of the smartest things we see is when an organization comes to us and they like their legacy broker, but they don't hold that against them. And what I mean by that is to realize as they go through this fiduciary process, they need to treat the legacy and any new ones that they're talking to exactly the same. So whatever the demands are in the processes should be exactly the same. Don't put your thumb on the scale for one or the other in terms of what takes place. And the best results we get are when, I'll go back to that first comment of HR and finance being aligned, is if they're aligned to be able to make sure that they're getting the absolute most from their legacy broker, assuming they want to keep them.
For me, I think asking about the book diversity, right? Like you don't really want to partner necessarily with somebody that has 90% of their business with one carrier. I think that's a little questionable. And then asking about conflicts of interest, right? And then disclosing indirect compensation, I think would be something else that I think is really important because, you can be shown direct compensation, but indirect, which is all the hidden stuff, that's really, just ask it outright and see what happens.
Chelsea and Austin, I find it just so interesting that the direction that I go and the direction you go in answering these questions.
I know.
They're similar, but they're very different in terms of what takes place. So it's really interesting to hear your perspective on it.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah,
All right, Austin, let's get into these mistakes.
Yeah, let's do it. I think the different backgrounds you guys bring makes it really exciting here. So, all right. So, those were the surprise questions. Thank you for obliging me on that, you two. And at this point, Chelsea, I'm going to let you take the reins completely. So,
all right, let's do it. So basically, everyone, what's going to happen is I'm going to outline what Jay and I have kind of come up with as some of the things that we see. And then Jay being the expert in this, I'm going to essentially interview him and get his answer. And then all of us are going to be smarter in the process. So mistake number 1, we noticed that a lot of organizations will treat the broker selection more like casual vendor shopping and not necessarily have that true fiduciary obligation at the heart of it. So the documentation requirements, the prudence, the oversight, there's a lot that goes into this. Jay, do you think employers are starting to understand that running an RFP and choosing any vendor is a fiduciary act? Or how close do you think we are to this being the norm? And what are some best practices?
So great questions. It's interesting. So it's the norm on the retirement side, and we were absolutely at the very beginning on the benefits and the broker side of things. There's no doubt because we get a lot of inquiries weekly, daily in terms of what takes place on this one. And it is not a best practice right now on the benefit side of things, on benefit broker side of things, without a doubt. So I guess my comment on terms of a solution is for the audience is whatever you do, whether you're doing it yourself or you hire a company like ours, you need to make sure that you document everything that you do. And think of it realizing at the end, you have to have a documented process that if a third party came in, you could years from now justify how you made your decision. And understand you don't have to make the right decision, but you have to have a documented process that outlines, what your process was to get to the point where you are. So saying, hey, we've got a 15-year history or a 5-year history or whatever else. And oh, by the way, we outsource the following services to the broker and they're instrumental for our HR team. That's not enough. There has to be much more detail behind that for if you get oversight from the Department of Labor or a third party, which you do not want to have take place.
So, quick question, if I can jump in real quick, that kind of plays a little bit on that. This is a question that came in. With that process, and you saying it's not necessarily best practice yet, Do you notice a tipping point with headcount? So, companies
Mm.
more than 1,000 employees, it is best practice, and with fewer, maybe it's not.
No, we've not. And in fact, I tell you that what we have seen a commonality, it's the personality of the person that's responsible for the evaluation. So what I mean by that is those people that are responsible for the evaluation that are more detailed process oriented and understand that whole process and the documentation side. And that can be someone that's from a small organization or a large organization. And so I think it's more the personality type than it is the size of the plan sponsor.
And what about bringing in a firm like yours? Is that does you see that tracking with size as well?
No, it's interesting. So we've got a bit of a nuance in our business. So almost 100% of our business is referred to us by third parties. About 85% of that is referred to us by external ERISA counsel. So they've got a client, they identify an issue, they come to us to help their client along those lines. And so our clients are everything from on the retirement side, startup plans to on the retirement side, tens of thousands, billions of dollars in assets. On the benefit side of things, the smallest we've had, I think, was 130 person, and now up to multiple thousands. And so it's the same for just about every size organization that you can think of in terms of what's happening. So I don't think there's a differentiation in terms of size market.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
I do want to mention, because I do see that there's a lot of Ethos clients on the call. Guys, you all have access to the Ethos fiduciary framework, which is that secure online portal that takes you through a step-by-step due diligence fiduciary process for every single vendor selection. So if you're like, I think we do this, we do. I just want to reassure all of you because I can see there's a ton of you here. And then Jay, so something that I've noticed on this, or I guess the next question would be like, where exactly can employers find the guidance? Like, for example, how often should they do a broker RFP? Because I know at Ethos we're doing 3 to 5 year strategies where, every year we're seeing results, but we've got a business plan for this, right? So every year is probably not a good idea, and that's a lot of work. What do you think is best practice there?
Yeah, I would agree. So whether you're a benefit plan or a retirement plan, the Department of Labor gives general guidelines of every 3 to 5 years. But I will say this, if you right now we are at a absolute tipping point, a paradigm shift in the broker world. So if you selected a broker a year ago and you didn't go through what I'm going to call kind of the new paradigm shift, you could do it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you've gone through this and you've kind of gone through this whole analysis with the new way of looking at broker services and fees, you don't have to do it for another 3 or 5 years. And, unless there's some major changes that's taken place inside your company. You've acquired an organization, you divested an organization, you've grown substantially, you've had new services that you've included under the consultant relationship. But in general, I would say 3 to 5 years, and that would be a best practice both on the retirement side as well as on the benefit side.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
So mistake number two, this is one of the most common ones that I see is that an RFP is built first, or honestly, what I see most of the time is it's a boilerplate template that was provided to them, usually from a brokerage, designed to, win for that brokerage most of the time, but without understanding really what the market offers, right? So how often do you see employers starting this process without really knowing what they should be asking for, and how do they figure out what they should be asking for?
Yeah, another great question, and because the power that the plan sponsor has in going through these evaluations is to make sure that they are prepared at the start of the evaluation. You don't want to get yourself halfway through this evaluation, have an aha moment and say, "Oh my goodness, I really need to start asking these questions," because the message you're sending to the brokers that you're evaluating is you really don't know what you're doing. And that takes away from your ability to get answers, get improved services, negotiate on fees, and along those lines. So I would say that from our perspective, when we do our own projects, at least 50% of the time we spend is in advance of the RFP going out so that we understand the issues and concerns for our clients and making sure that there is a tailored approach that they're not only including the right questions, because let's just pretend we asked 50 questions. there's probably 10 that really are the crux of what needs to be done.
Right.
But you gotta know and ask those 10 up front. You can't ask them at the end.
Right. So something that I think is interesting, and I think that this is incredibly important. I'm curious if you do. Asking questions like, what conflicts of interest do you have with the vendors that you're recommending? Are you willing to disclose your compensation? How do you handle Consolidated Appropriations Act? What's your take on fiduciary status? Do you have fiduciary insurance? What's your cybersecurity limits? Like those, and actually, the most recent thing that I've seen I've never even thought to ask until I read a contract. Um, there was a brokerage taking lines of credit out from a carrier that this company had. And it was actually disclosed, interestingly enough, in the compensation disclosure. It said, like, basically, like, we take lines of credit out from this company or from this carrier that you work with. And to me, it's just like, it's such a glaring, like, oh God, that's not good. Are those the types of questions? In my world, that's what I would be recommending us to ask of vendors that we hire on behalf of our clients. Like, do you like those? Would you add anything, take those away?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, so Chelsea, great. So I mean, those are all topic areas that we include. There's no
Right.
doubt. But in this transformative stage, there's kind of, I think that four areas that we really want to focus in on. And that is number one, um, how is the broker being compensated? So the model right now for a longest time is commission based. So every time that there's a premium increase, your broker makes more money. It's like the eighth wonder of the world, right? I mean, I don't know of any other business that
No.
get compensated that way, and it's remarkably fantastic for the broker, and it's not for the plan sponsor. So one of the areas you got to look at is moving from that compensation, the commission structure to a fixed fee. That's what happened on the retirement side. Number two, you've got to be able to identify and understand that kind of the kickback money that's coming from carriers back to the brokers, because that's your money as a plan sponsor. They only make that money because of the relationship they have with you. So you have to identify, is that money coming in? How much money is it? And you want it going back to pay your bills. So that's the second area. Number three, right now in the model in terms of compensation, there is no fee certainty or guarantee in a broker model. What I mean is the fees only go up. There's only one direction that it goes up. And what you need to understand is you can negotiate that fixed fee for a period of time so you have cost certainty. And then I think the last really big big question that we ask every broker is, are you willing to take a co-fiduciary status in writing in the agreement with this client? And I'm going to categorize this into three areas. The large multinational brokers run for the hills. We did an evaluation, large company everyone has heard about. I literally was laughing and reading the response that they couldn't run further away from this. The large national firms, maybe kind of like the aggregators that have come in and bought some of the smaller boutique firms, they're intrigued by it, but they're not doing it. And then there's firms like yours, which I would classify more as the boutique, and realize that this is the foundation for growth for your business. Is arms are wide open. We absolutely want to do this. We're only going to sit on your side of the table. Our agreements will say something along the lines of co-fiduciary status. And that's the future of the business. The only question is, when is it going to happen? It is going to happen. It's happening now, but how many years is going to take for the market to change? And that was exactly the conversation I had with these risk attorneys in Houston, which is, this is not up for negotiation as to whether it's going to happen. It's happening right now, whether you know it with your clients or not, regardless of size.
100%. And something that I think is interesting is, I know there's a lot of employers out there that realize that the commission model doesn't serve them. But I can't tell you how many conversations I've had in the past where, until they, enter into our fee-based advising model, see all the alignments, see the success, there's still this thing where they're like, well, who cares? Everybody has to make money. And it's like, no,
Oh,
it's not about how much or how little. It's not the amount that's the problem. It's the relationship to your success that's the problem. It's inverse currently, right? And think about why, if a broker is incentivized when premium dollars go up, right? They're not bad people. It's just the system that a lot of them have been put into and they haven't learned the new way. But think about this. There's no incentive to actually get to the root cause of what's actually driving those premium increases. Oh, it's health care, it's claims, it's the cost of care. Like, how do we fix that? Nobody ever, not nobody, but very few firms get to that root cause conversation because they're so fixated on that annual premium number on the bottom of the spreadsheet. So we can move on from this one because I could talk all day.
My last line on that is behavior follows compensation.
Preach. I'm there with that. All right, guys, mistake number 3. Most RFPs ask hundreds of questions. I've seen one with 300 questions. We did not respond. But a lot of the times there's little context with no clarity on current frustrations, no data provided, no understanding of expectations, or really what the services are. It's just kind of blanket questions, open-ended. What do you think about this? Do you think that brokers are given enough information to respond adequately to their actual needs?
So interesting. So one of the conversations we have with our clients, it fundamentally is the more information you can provide about yourself and your plans, the better off you'll be. Now, the only thing you don't want to give is obviously privileged information along those lines, but everything else, the more you give to the brokers to know who you are, the better response and the better potential opportunity for a good match in the future. So we suggest as much information as humanly possible. And I don't mean that in terms of 300 questions. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that is, right? Our average RFP is probably, I don't know, 50 questions, right? And 10 to 15 of those are very tailored to the specific client. And the other ones are a little bit more boilerplate, but give the information up. You have to.
So employers on the call that are listening that are considering going through this process, I think the recommendation here is what's important to you, and are you providing the right information to the people that you're seeking out help from for them to be able to show you what they can do with those with what you're looking for, essentially.
Yeah, I think, and if you go to ChatGPT or whatever else, or Google or whatever else, and you pull down a template for RFPs, it's probably gonna take you down a road where you're really gonna collect old information that used to be important that's not as important now.
Yeah, like the carrier status question, right? Versus co-fiduciary.
Yep.
Correct. All right, number 4. So timelines, right? There's a lot of times where I'll get a LinkedIn message and it's like, hey, we have this RFP. I've seen your content. Like, it seems like this could be a good fit. Do you mind submitting it? And I open up the email and it's like 3 days, 4 days. And we don't just recycle RFPs. If we're going to go through the process where we think we have a chance, number one, we think that there's values alignment with the organization and we think we can make a difference, you need a little bit more time than 2 or 3 days, right, to do something thoughtful and meaningful. So question, what do you think is the right timeline and to really make significant change for them?
No less than 2 weeks, no more than 3.
Okay.
You've got, if you think your business is important enough to somebody, you got to give them enough time to understand who you are and respond to you. And if you expect someone to know your business in a matter of days, then you're not seriously going through the process, or you've already got a predetermined decision already.
There was an RFP a couple of years ago where there was hardly any information whatsoever. But the lady that sent it to me on LinkedIn said, like, we were really interested in your firm. So I was like, no problem. Can we have a quick 15-minute conversation so I can get a little bit more clarity? And she said, no, we're not talking to anybody. And
that's crazy.
Right. Okay. I didn't know if that's something that you see often. I was like, I'm sure you don't want to take, 15 phone calls with brokers. I understand that. But if you haven't given me enough information to, thoughtfully respond. So we didn't submit because obviously I don't know what you want. So.
Yeah, Chelsea, I mean, it's interesting. We just had a conversation with a prospect early this morning, and our process is that we Zoom interview 10 firms that maybe 5 will actually get the RFP to make sure that they are in alignment for what the client wants. So if you're going to do it internally, you're going to have to spend the time to be able to make sure. You don't want to send out 20 and have 10 firms decline and then evaluate. I mean, it's just a crazy poor allocation of your internal time. That's how us as professionals do. We don't want to waste the time. Any organization that's going to respond to RFPs, they are totally aligned and on board for the process.
Yeah. Megan, we're going to save that question for the end. I just want to get through the last one, if that's okay. I saw you jumping in. Thank you. All right. Mistake number 5. So fee structures, transparency rules, compliance, alternative revenue sources, contract provisions, all of that has, like you said, it's changed so much, right? We're in the midst of this giant paradigm shift. But do you think employers really understand how much the broker compensation models have changed? And to your point earlier, how much control they have over what model they want within their program?
The simple answer to that is absolutely not. They
Yeah,
have there are exceptions. Hey, listen, there may be folks listening in here and they know exactly how this is done, but I would say that that is an exception than the rule. And that's the biggest piece, that when you go out to RFP, you have to have an understanding of what the possibilities are in terms of services and fees, so that when you get into the evaluation and the final selection, you know what your options are. I mean, you can't have the RFP process end up being your education and
right.
hoping that the brokers will inform you as to what's going on. You have to know up front in terms of what happens. And right now, regardless as to what your size is, in terms of a plan sponsor, whether you're 100 people or you've got tens of thousands, it is exactly the same spot. So I'm going to go back to this Houston conversation. So these ERISA accounts, most organizations that have external ERISA counsel, they're substantial in size, right? They can afford to pay the bill. And there were 2 or 3 very large oil companies that were in there, and they were kind of intrigued by, hey, I got to go back and take a look at this thing and
Yeah,
see
I
what's taking
mean,
place. And so it's not well known, and it has nothing to do with size. It's just not the knowledge in the marketplace. That's why I say, Chelsea, we're in the formative stages for all size companies.
so when I look at this and I think about the solution of alternative fee structures, I think, being that we're in the business, Jay, I think we know where to look for these potentially misaligned compensation incentives. But I do want to recognize that there's probably a lot of folks on the call where this isn't your business, right? You deal with this
Yeah.
stuff once a year and it's exhausting and you probably hate it. And hopefully you're a client of ours and you don't hate it and you love it and you're getting all the results and you're happy. But like it's a lot, right? And they don't know where to look. So I wanted to throw out a couple of examples of places that you can look to see if there's aligned incentives. So number one, you really want to check your contracts with your broker advisor and the PBM to make sure that there's not something like a per member per month fee. I've seen this a lot. Like, why does the broker need an additional $3 per member per month through the PBM, right? Like, you should probably just have a fixed fee with them that you're working with. How about a per script fill fee? We see that a lot. Every single time one of your members, employers, fills a drug, the broker's getting a $5, $7 kickback. There's no need for that, right? Taking commission on stop loss. That's the same thing that's inherent with even fully insured plans. When your premium goes up and they make more money, that's the same thing on stop loss premium commission. So those are just a couple examples. Do you have anything to add there, Jay?
Yeah, no, those are great examples. And you have to understand where we focus our time. We're not a broker, so we don't get into that level of detail in terms of that's why you have to have it totally aligned with your broker, because they have to be able to do that work for their clients. The big areas that we look at are commission-based versus fixed, capturing the kind of rebate income that takes place, cost certainty. Those are the pieces that you can really tie into in terms of a broker of evaluation. You can go to the Department of Labor on their website. They'll be able to give you some insights. If you happen to have a ERISA counsel, you can go to them in terms of what takes place. And the area that you can go into is go into ChatGPT and type in some stuff, and it's amazing what you're going to find just by reading through that process of what some areas are. I think the big piece for why organizations come to us is they just don't have the time, they don't have the resources to do this type of an evaluation. So you got to have the time to
Yeah.
to have the information.
I really love your positioning on this, which is basically, because I live and breathe this. So I want to get into the nitty gritty of every contract and look at every, potential misalignment. And you're saying to the guests on our webinar today, which is brilliant, you don't even need to worry about that if you have the right partner, right? Like, just start with the tip of the spear, to use your earlier reference. So it's all making sense.
Yeah, I was
Absolutely.
going to say, Chelsea, the same message I gave to the ERISA council, which is if you have fundamental problems in your PBM or your carriers or whatever else that takes place, unless you have alignment with your broker, odds are none of that's ever going to get fixed.
Yes, which is
Because
actually a perfect segue into something. Donovan's going to come on really quick, guys, and give us the lowdown on something that's super important from a litigation perspective that might apply to quite a few people on the call today. But to Jay's point, what Donovan's about to share, we've brought to a few prospects, and they asked us, well, why didn't our broker show us this? You'll find out. So Donovan, without further ado, if you are available, please hop on and share your knowledge with us.
Hey everybody, thank you. I have my hands very full today. He's quite wiggly. So I was listening to the webinar, great information from Jay and Chelsea, and I think the only thing I'd like to add is just the thought that the future is already here. Like, this is where we're going with health and welfare plans, how they're done, obviously the risks to them. So the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet, right? So it's coming around. So what I wanted to add, I'm just going to take 30 seconds and put this in because this is time sensitive. This is a multi-district litigation. Think of it similar to a class action lawsuit, a little bit different in that all the cases are filed separately because damages have to be proved per plaintiff, basically, right? So this is on generic drug price fixing and insulin price gouging, essentially, for health and welfare plans for any self-funded healthcare plan. And the time period goes back 17 years for some of these damages. So this is something that employees or plan sponsors can sign on to. The attorneys are working on a contingency fee basis. So there is no upfront cost. You don't need to change brokers. You don't need to do anything different. You basically just need to kind of get on retainer with one of these law firms. The damages are significant for a 1,000 life company, assuming they were self-funded over that time period. You're talking, 8 figures of damages, even on a low settlement kind of, calculation. So if you are a self-funded plan sponsor, if you're one of the attorneys on the call, you have some clients that are, please shoot me an email, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'll get you some information on this. We do have to get everybody over to the attorneys by 1st of December. We don't have to start doing, the claims and the RX discovery just yet. We have time to do that. But we do have to kind of get you signed up and on board. And that is all I have. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we've run into a lot of people or companies that are thinking they need stuff from us for this, but this is actually an incredible initiative. Definitely reach out to Donovan and see if it applies and if you're eligible. It'd be amazing. So
I'd like to throw it out there that this is Bo Rikas's first webinar. He's our new intern. He's a whole 10 weeks old. So good job, buddy.
He wasn't listening, but he was looking at the pictures. So
That is the future CEO of Ethos Benefits, y'all. My future boss right there.
Awesome. All right. Well, I know we're going to get into Q&A here. So Laura had some questions. Laura, if you need more clarity, just throw it in the chat and we'll throw it over to Jay, but hopefully that's enough for you. Megan, Austin, do we have any more?
Yes. So I'll start this off because this is a huge one that rolls into everything, right? And we talk about it all the time, fiduciary, okay, till we're blue in the face. So someone had a question, fiduciary roles are maybe a little bit more easy to recognize or delineate in the 401k context. What does it mean in the context of your health benefits consultant to be a co-fiduciary?
So let me try to tackle this one. So from a very simplistic standpoint, you want to make sure that your broker is only sitting on your side of the table and they disclose all of the potential conflicts and revenue sources in terms of what takes place. On the 401k side of things, technically a 321 investment advisor is by definition a fiduciary because they're giving advice or recommendations on the investments. So on the benefit side, you can think of it as a similar approach, that you're going to have a broker that's going to be giving you advice and suggestions on specific actions within your within your health and welfare plan. So I think there's a direct correlation that takes place. In fact, talking to the lawyers in Houston, there was one corporate counsel this turned out to be an internal counsel, that she has been having conversations with folks in Washington, D.C., that they are discussing having a safe harbor clause for health and welfare plan sponsors that cover fiduciary status of their consultant. If that takes place, it is game over in terms of what happens. And that would not surprise me in terms of what's happened once Washington understands the dollar magnitude for what happens. At the very minimum, if you can't get a clause that says that they're a co-fiduciary, you should have something in there in terms of exclusive benefit, that they are working exclusive benefit to you as the plan sponsor. That is a reasonable interim step.
Yeah, and if there's any conflicts of interest that arise throughout the year, if compensation changes throughout the year, that they have 5 business days to get you a new contract or an updated disclosure, things like that. I love this question, and only because I've heard Donovan talk about it so much, because he had a securities fiduciary license in the retirement space and his advising over there, but nothing truly exists to that same degree, that's only for health benefits. So like Jay said, it's just the same sort of standard under ERISA that's applying now. And hopefully legislation continues to go that way. I want to throw out one caveat, which is there's a lot of brokers in the market I'm seeing, especially on LinkedIn, that are hearing this message and they're using the right verbiage. They're talking about transparency. They're saying fiduciary this, fiduciary that. But when you dive in and get a little bit deeper, you really need to find out, is it just marketing or is it actually embedded in their business structure and processes? Do they take you through due diligence? Do they understand the ERISA law? Or is it just a fancy thing on a flyer? I had a vendor reach out to me 2-3 months ago and said, hey, we're trying to hop on the fiduciary train. We think you're leading this movement in the benefit space. Can you tell us how we could change our messaging so that people like you would want to talk to us? I was like, yeah, become a co-fiduciary, put it in your contracts and get the right insurance. But if you just throw it on a flyer, that's not good enough. So make sure that you're really understanding, what does that mean? And for example, in our E&O insurance, we have fiduciary coverage, just as, a little bit more clarity on that. Any other questions?
Chelsea, I would agree 100%. If it's not in the agreement, it's not real.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of fluff.
It's a promise. That's all it is.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so this goes a little bit along with what you were saying, Chelsea, in that, disclosing compensation, all that good stuff. Does Culpeper specifically, but just kind of in general, is there a way to, as a broker or consultant, benchmark your, practices and fees and all that stuff to make sure that it's kind of aligning with the market, with expectations, that sort of thing?
We have not done that. Yeah, we're starting to do that on the retirement side of things because we have enough data points to be able to come up with something along those lines. But we definitely have not done that. We're way too early in this process. And frankly, we've got more business than we can think of in terms of this area, let alone trying to expand it. So the answer to that is no, unfortunately not.
Not yet. There is a lot of benchmarking data available. There's certain vendors and companies out there that this is all that they do. So I'm happy to make some introductions if anybody needs that.
I'll tell you, the only thing I would suggest, and this is what we tell our clients is, we tell our clients some of this information in terms of what the commission structures are and what the percentages are and on the products and whatever else, some of it's well known, some of it's not going to be well known. That's the one piece we don't give to firms that are going to be in the RFP process, because that becomes the starting point for what their fees are going to be. So if your commissions add up to $400,000, well, what a surprise. The fixed price is going to be $400,000. If you don't reveal that, I would suggest in response to this individual that asked the question is I would look at your business differently and begin to understand what's the cost to providing your services, and then price it out fairly in the market. And that's going to be different for every company. You may have a high overhead, you may have low overhead. You may be a big company, you may be a small company. But I would start thinking that in terms of what your cost structure is, and is that a reasonable price for your clients?
That's great. Any other questions, Megan?
Nope, that was all the questions that we had.
Awesome.
Good question.
Austin, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, good timing, guys. So, last couple of things we got for you is Ethos has been nominated for a ton of awards with the U Powered Collaborative. And I just want to give you an opportunity or an ask, really. I'm just asking you guys, please, we'd love for you to leave a vote. You can scan this QR if you want to grab your phone real quick. I'll leave it up there for another 20, 30 seconds for you. But these are some of the things that we're nominated for. So Chelsea is nominated for the most influential industry personality. She basically has the easiest competition ever, to my understanding. It's just Mark Cuban and a couple other massive influencers. So she's got this, no problem whatsoever.
I need every single vote, okay, guys? Mark Cuban's got a lot more pull than I do, so please vote.
Yeah, get on there and vote for Chelsea. That one's a landslide victory in the coming future here. We also have Donovan is nominated for the most innovative healthcare consultant, and so we're very excited for Donovan. He's got this in the bag. Come on, this is the one. And then two more. We also have another staff member, Patrick, and sorry, it's kind of covered up here. He's nominated for the Emergent Leader of the Year. And I know Patrick personally. He's just such an amazing guy, and so I really, really would love for you to vote for him. He's so talented. I think we go to him for just about every question about everything that ever exists. So, an absolute legend. And finally, something I'm really a part of too is the podcast. We got nominated for the top benefits industry podcast nomination. So you'll see all those in there. There are other people as well. I won't try to king make on that one. Feel free to check it out and decide. But we'd love for you to vote. All of this, including a summary and the video from this webinar, will be sent to you. So if you're unable to grab your phone and scan this right now, I'm going to send you a sweet little link in an email for you to vote as well. And please reach out to Donovan if you have any interest in the MDL piece that we talked about earlier. And last thing is I want to make sure that we've got Jay and Chelsea's contact information. If you have follow-up questions, please contact them. They are here to be an asset to you, and we just want to assist you guys. And so please reach out to them. And Jay, I just want to say such a big thank you, my friend, for joining us. You're just it's full of insights, and so I just really appreciate your time.
Austin, you did a remarkable job prepping me for this, so thank you very much. And Chelsea, it's always a pleasure.
You too, Jay. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, have a good one, and we'll see you next time.